On the bench today, we don't usually do book reviews, but I'm telling you folks, for the record, and I'm telling you for the record, Aden Duale has written a masterpiece here. If you're a student of history
and politics,
this is the book to read. Last 10, 15 years are all in here, and you can know the intrigues, the betrayals, the backstabbing. It's all in here, and
yes.
You witnessed it yourself.
Oh, yes.
First-hand.
First-hand account.
First-hand account.
Yes.
And you were saying President Kenyatta, when the referendum took place in 2005, right?
Yes.
Oranges and bananas.
Yes.
And then Kibaki fired a whole bunch of people.
Yes.
And the Oranges, having won that referendum, went on to form ODM.
Yes.
And Uhuru was part of that.
You know, in 2002, when Uhuru lost the election to President Kibaki, in big time, him and I think President William Ruto was the Secretary General of Kano with the late Mutula Kilonzo. They had about 62 members of parliament. So they formed a very strong opposition. Uhuru became the leader of opposition. He was the chair of the Public Accounts Committee, a very powerful committee during that time. Then the 2005 referendum, KANU and LDP and other parties joined together. Once we won the referendum, the banana and the oranges, yes. The orange won massively in all counties and all districts. And then ODM, the Orange Democratic Movement, it had some connotations with the Orange Revolution in Ukraine.
Yes.
Then they formed the ODM, and it was called ODM Kenya, okay? Which down the line, Kalonzo Musyoka afterwards humiliated. It's in the book, in Khadija grounds in Mombasa, when Odinga's supporters came with the hammer. You remember that time there was a hammer? Yeah. The whole field was hammer.
Correct.
So when Kalonzo stood to speak, everybody said hammer, and that was, it was not far from the elections. And the supporters of ODMK were propelling the endorsement of Raila Odinga. Uhuru Kenyatta was part of the ODM brigade. Then all of a sudden, because of the tribal currency, he left ODM and went to support Uhuru Kenyatta. You can imagine the leader of opposition, the chair of Public Accounts Committee, went back to his community, to his region, and supported President Kibaki. I have been a supporter of Kibaki, but I was not the leader of the opposition.
Right.
Then William Ruto and the whole of his brigade from Rift Valley and many other parts of the country, they remained in Kanu. When Kanu collapsed, then ODM was formed. Okay? So when you look at the history of Uhuru Kenyatta, what he did in 2006, 2000, before the elections, is the same Uhuru Kenyatta, again recorded in my book, who in 2022, the SATs, a sitting president. It has never happened in the world, in the most democracies. A sitting president crossing over, leaving his party and his government, and inviting the opposition across the fence and say, I think you guys are better and you can lead the country. So in 2002, he left his party, Jubilee. In fact, he never left his party, just like the way he did to KANU after when he was forming TNA. He cannibalized Jubilee, destroyed it, so that anybody else, including Aden Duale, cannot use Jubilee, and then supported Raila Odinga. When he was cannibalizing Jubilee, it had 175 members of parliament. It was the largest party in the region. 175. Today, I think they have less than, I think they are at the age of qualifying to be a parliamentary party. For you to be a parliamentary party, I think you must be 5% of the House. So they must have about 25 MPs.
28 or so.
28 MPs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a chapter on the Constitution of 2010, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
The story of the 2010 referendum and the new Constitution.
Yes.
And you were part of that whole Naivasha talks.
Yes.
How was that?
You know, the 2010 constitution making was difficult. And that is the only time, in this book even I have documented, is the only time I took a sabbatical leave from my bosom friend William Ruto. You remember William Ruto was opposing?
No.
Yes.
It was with the nose, yeah.
Me, I was yes. And we agreed principally on a gentleman agreement that, you know, there are certain salient, important features captured in this draft constitution for my backyard, whether it is the Muslims, whether it is the Somali community and the pastoralist, the office of the Qadi's court, the element of devolution. Devolution was very, very dear to the people of the North. You know, they were victims of discrimination. They were victims of a centralized government. Somebody along Harambee Avenue, either office of the president or the national treasury, could decide for somebody in Marsabit, in Sololo, and he has never been there. So devolution, the Qadi's court were very dear to me and many people. So on a gentleman's agreement, I told William Ruto, I'll take a sabbatical leave from you. Go with your no. I wish you all the best. And I'll go to yes. But there were a number of us who were watermelon. You know, because now I have to say the truth, because it's written here.
Yes.
President Uhuru Kenyatta then was watermelon, John Michuki, myself. And I remember at one time we did a fundraising offline for the No Camp.
Right.
And,
for the No Camp.
For the No Camp. We did a fundraising for them. And after even they lost, they got about 2.5 million votes. William Ruto, you know, did very well. William Ruto is not a politician you can play around with. You know, as a minister for agriculture, one person against the whole government, the prime minister, the president, the deputy president, the vice president, Kalonzo Musyoka, and all of us, and with the state resources, William Ruto alone with his NOCAM, they raised about 2.5 million. Of course, they had serious points to raise to the people of Kenya. So when we won in that constitution, there were issues that led to the change of what the committee of experts proposed to the people of Kenya. When people went to Naivasha, a lot of political chess game happened. A lot of intrigues happened. And remember that time is when we had a serious divorce ourselves, the William Ruto's wing with the Odinga and his ODM party. So, and that was the time when, for the first time, at the altar of the constitution making, William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta were reading from the same script. I am a believer of a parliamentary system of government. And that is a time when Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto agreed in principle. Okay?
To a parliamentary system?
Yes. And you know, there was the team of ODM were divided between William Ruto faction and Raila Odinga's faction. So the the William Ruto faction went to bed and agreed with the PNU faction of President Kibaki. And they agreed on, that's where the powers of the Senate were diluted. There are people who didn't want the Senate to be a powerful house. That is the time when the numbers of the counties were reduced to 47.
From
the guys who wanted 94.
What?
Yeah. That is the time. In fact, the proponents of a parliamentary system, which I was part of with ODM, the original counties were to be not more than the 11, 13. 8 of the former provinces, and then add big provinces like Rift Valley, divide into 2. That is when the minimum 15% money for devolution was compromised. And that is when the whole, history of Raila Odinga